Hello everyone. Today I would be going to talk about our project BattleLens. Our project deals with Middle East wars and conflicts. We aim to analyze the attacks, the parties involved, and the number of fatalities that have happened in the region of Middle East for the past decade. We want to identify what drives these wars, the underlying reasons behind it, the parties involved, and who benefits out of it. For the dataset we have used Middle East Conflict Dataset ACLED, annual GDP growth rates for different countries between 1980 to 2024, the defense revenues of top 100 weapon manufacturing countries. So our first interaction is a geomap which has a timeline panel inside it from year 2015 to 2024 and different event types. You can select the year which you want to analyze the data. You can hover around it. The circles represent the number of fatalities. And there are different event types. We can clear all. We can select if we want to analyze only for battles or battles and explosion, or if we want to select everything. We can even zoom into the map to a particular area, and each hover it defines the location, the date, the fatalities, and a key note about what has happened on that event. We can zoom out. Moving on, this is a chord diagram. It shows the parties which were involved in that particular year, and the thickness, the arc length, it defines the number of interactions which it had. Clicking on it gives the location where that particular event had occurred. This is a summary of what has happened from 2015 to 2024, the fatalities, the total events, battles, etc. As we can see, we have made an analysis about this Middle East unrest, and we show that the number of fatalities were maximum in 2017. And why so? The total number of events have been constantly increasing, and this shows that Middle East is at unrest. Next, we focus our attention more on the arms sales, that they're not just a transaction, but the countries have been using arms sales to boost this economy and to drive the Middle East unrest. This is the stacked bar diagram which we have created, where the x-axis shows the countries, the y-axis shows the weapon revenue made by those countries, and each glyph is the company for that particular country. If we click on any stacked bar diagram, it shows the percentage of that company contribution in that country. So for Boeing, it's 17.2%. We can hover around it and it shows the different pie chart contribution of it. Moving on. Next is we have created this pie chart which reveals the economic landscape of global arms trade. So the black stroke width over here, it defines the UN permanent UN members, and each area defines the contribution made by that particular country towards global arms sales. After analyzing this chart, we came to a conclusion that more than 70% of the global arms revenue is being generated by the permanent UN members, or the countries which are responsible for global security. Note, this diagram is also integrated with the timeline, as so this one. If we change the year, these diagrams are also dynamically updated. Next is the stream diagram which we have created, and from this diagram we want to show a correlation between the GDP of a country and the global revenue generated by the arms sales. So if we look for any country, the thickness over here defines the GDP growth or the GDP change. For Japan, as you can see, for 2015 the revenue was 215,000 and the GDP change was 1.60%. Moving on, the thickness in this region is low, which signifies that the GDP change has stopped. As so this one for Japan, which is minus 0.4. So analyzing this chart, we get to know that there is a correlation between the revenue which is generated by that country and the GDP increase. Through these analysis, we notice that there is a positive correlation between the GDP and the weapon revenue sales. Countries like USA, France, Russia have seen a growth in the GDP as well as their yearly weapon revenue sales. Whereas for countries like Israel, Palestine, where have seen a decline in their GDP. The second conclusion which we draw is the permanent UN members or the permanent members of the UN Security Council, which are responsible to maintain global peace. It is seen that they make more than 70% of their shares from the global arms sales, and which means they are profiting out of it by promoting these wars.